A brand new report from ESPN has dropped revealing one of the major issues that not a lot of people are talking about for the Minnesota Vikings in this offseason. This relates with Christian Darrisaw and his injury and how much longer he could be out. So we're going to be looking at what this report says about Cam Robinson as well as the free agency going into the whole plan for the offensive line. We're going to be talking about this here in this video. Before we get into it though, we know that 91% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot for all of your Minnesota Vikings news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Minnesota Vikings. But without any further ado, let's get into this first topic because this is obviously a major issue that we've been discussing here on the channel regarding the Vikings offensive line. And realistically, we know that the tackles are locked down on the edge of the offensive line. Right tackle, left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, and Brian O'Neill. But Christian Darrisaw last season tore his ACL and MCL, and is going to be out for quite some time. And questions are being asked, is he going to be ready for game 1 of the regular season? And if not, the Vikings are going to have to add another tackle to be able to fill in his absence for what could be at least a majority of the season. So with that report, Christian Darrisaw has been questioned for this season. And what about Cam Robinson, the tackle that the Vikings traded for this year from the Jacksonville Jaguars, who ultimately didn't have the greatest season with the Minnesota Vikings, but definitely filled a major hole in a heavily needed spot. So getting into this report here, linked to teams that need a left tackle like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Rams, Robinson is expected to land a lucrative contract in free agency for his performance in relief of Christian Darrisaw. Now, we knew that it was very unlikely that we would see Cam Robinson back, but questions are being asked now, and more reports are really coming out about, are the Vikings still in on him? And that's where this comes into play. A quote from Jeremy Fowler here from ESPN. Robinson quite possibly played his way above $20 million per year threshold. The Rams and Chiefs are among teams that could be looking for a left tackle help, and a return to Minnesota is not totally off the table after the Vikings traded for Robinson at mid-season. Now, the fact that we're seeing Jeremy Fowler come out about this, the fact that we're seeing him come out and talk about Christian Darrisaw once again, or about Cam Robinson once again, really indicates to us that there is some sort of linkage, once again, to the Minnesota Vikings. That there has been either some short talks, some small negotiations, or something along the lines of being, hey, we have to think about Cam Robinson coming back. Because although Cam Robinson, didn't play great from the Minnesota Vikings this season, he did not play bad by any means, but coming into a new system mid-season where you're going to be one of the corner pieces of the offensive line and really covering for, the guards as well, it was not an easy task for him, and especially with the schedule the Vikings had, some very pass rush heavy teams. And Cam Robinson definitely did not play in the best hand at this, but doesn't mean that in a whole new year with the same system, he would not come out here and find the success that he did have. And he would be a very expensive option, but yet an option that we would love to see back with the Minnesota Vikings to be able to hold for at least the time being for Christian Darrisaw. Now, Darrisaw is the future. There's no doubt about that. And his timeline for return is still a bit unknown, but we can kind of relate it to what TJ Hockenson underwent after he tore his ACL in the year before. And after tearing his ACL and MCL in late December 2023, TJ Hockenson did not return until Week 8. Darrisaw underwent surgery on November 4th, and while that's still roughly 2 more months of recovery time before the start of the 2025 season, the recovery timeline for an ACL and MCL tear is 9 to 12 months. So using this comparison to TJ Hockenson's ACL tear, it certainly gives us a pretty good idea of the timeline and what kind of recovery timeline will take place for Christian Darrisaw. And obviously, the 2 months here extra is certainly a big bonus, but there's also a bit of a difference between tearing your ACL as a tight end compared to tearing your ACL as an offensive lineman. There are certain instances where, you're going to get more activity, I guess we could say, as a tight end by the running aspect, but you're getting a lot of pressure on the offensive line. So it is two kind of sides of the same coin where, the recovery will be the same thing, but the timeline could be slightly different. But the Vikings are not going to want to rush him. They're not going to want to rush anybody back, especially from a torn ACL, just in case you do have that extra injury. And realistically, we cannot afford to have another injury to Christian Darrisaw, who has been a cornerstone of this offensive line since he's been drafted and will be for the foreseeable future. But when we're looking at Cam Robinson, he's not going to come at a cheap price. And SpotTrack right now has his market value at around $14 million. That's $4 million down from his current contract, or the one he was on last season at $18 million. But $14 million of a market value does not necessarily mean that that's what he's going to get paid. And, the tackles available in this draft, there are a few. There's not overly too many, but he is definitely one of the top, if not the top, in that tackle aspect. So his price will be, regardless of the market value, will be more than what the market value is, because of how many teams are going to be looking at him, how many teams are going to be at least trying to put a bid in on him. So the Vikings will have to at least go after a few teams, the Chiefs and the Rams being two of those that are being reported right now. But as we do kind of look at Cam Robinson, a one-year deal may also be a bit of a struggle, especially with the type of contract that he's going to be looking for. And the way that he was paid last year in his recent contracts, he's going to want to get that money and have that for term. So with that, the Vikings probably won't want to give him too much term, with Christian Darrisaw only going to be out likely and hopefully what is a little bit of the season. Hopefully not at all, but PFF projected that Robinson that would get a 3-year, $56 million contract and the number 2 tackle and 17th ranked free agent overall. And as that kind of compares to the contract that he is projected to get, that is over what he's currently making. I believe it's 18.6 per year. I could be wrong about that. Comment below if the exact amount, if it is wrong. But for the number 2 tackle and the 17th ranked overall free agent, he's going to be making that money regardless. It could even be more, but it would be a tough go for the Vikings to be able to confidently go out there and say, yes, we're going to go get Cam Robinson at that price. But as I mentioned in a previous video as well, there are options the Vikings could use to make that cap space go up, and if by some means they can get Cam Robinson on that one-year deal, you go out and do that. And then Christian Darrisaw comes back, gives you a bit of an option as well to maybe try him at guard for a few games, whatnot. That could be a bit of a risky decision, but depending how things go and depending on the situation the Vikings are in with their guards here in the free agency and the draft, they could be in a situation where they feel like they have to try it. And hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully we lock everything down, but you really never know about free agency and whatnot and that kind of stuff and situation with injuries, and it could get into a very bad situation, but hopefully that is not the case. But Minnesota would be only looking to sign Robinson on that one-year deal, like I mentioned, and here in this article kind of goes further into this. Given his expected market value, the Vikings will have a hard time trying to convince him to come back on that short-term deal because of the market value, the increase in his projected contract compared to his market value. He's going to want to lock down that what is going to be $18+ million, lock that down for the foreseeable future, and you really can't blame him here. But the way that we've seen Cam Robinson be able to play compared to what he did last year, there is a big bonus in being able to sign. And of course, Darrisaw, you want him back. We want to see him back. We need to see him back, actually. I mean, looking at the offensive line and comparing him with a rookie quarterback, what is projected to be J.J. McCarthy, you're going to want to have the best offensive line possible, and Christian Darrisaw will be the big part of that. And hopefully we do see, at least Cam Robinson back in some way. But obviously, if the Vikings cannot make this happen at a reasonable price, you don't want to risk too much money on a tackle that will, may only play half a season or whatnot, depending on where Darrisaw comes. There is the option to trade him, but it would be a bit of an interesting one where teams may not be looking to do that mid-season. So there are a few options here, but let me know what you think about this. Obviously, it's a very interesting thing to look at now, especially where we don't really know the timeline just yet for Christian Darrisaw. But Cam Robinson will be a lot of money, but he could be the option for the Minnesota Vikings. So let me know what you think here in the comments below. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.